and welcome to the Republica Unicornia podcast. I'm Kathleen. I'm the head yarn wench at Republica Unicornia. I am an indie yarn dyer, a project bag maker, a garment sewist, and I get up to all kinds of creative chaos. So thanks for stopping by. Before we get started, and we have quite a bit of stuff, it's a lot of shameless self-promotion, so sorry, infomercial. But there's other non-self-promotional stuff. But before we get started, just a fair dues warning. There might be some vulgarity, swearing, adult content. I'll probably swear. So if you are opposed to salty language, this may not be the podcast for you. You can just keep on moving, but you have had your fair dues warning. But to the rest of you salty, salty humans, welcome. It's so lovely to have you here. I'm drinking a seltzer because it up and springtimed in Atlanta. It has been, oh my gosh, we're going to talk about the weather because I'm 97 years old. So it got disgustingly warm in a distressing climate changey kind of way at the end of February. And then it cooled way down and was like full on winter, like winter, like our version of winter. And I was sad and in bed. And then this early, like middle of last week, it started warming up, and I think it is currently 75 in my studio. I have one of the doors open, and so if you hear bird noises, that's what's happening. There is a tree splooge everywhere, so that's been really fun. But all of that means that my creative energy is like a 10. So lots of stuff to talk about. Like I said, again, there's going to be like a lot of shop talk. So I'm going to put that at the end. So if you don't want to watch me, hawking my own products, you can just watch the first part where I talk about things that I'm making and want to make, and then not watch the commercial. However, I've been making some really fun stuff for the shop, so you may want to stay tuned. I have notes. Who am I even? So I'm just going to jump right in, and we are going to start off, because it's on my list, we're going to start off talking about knitting. So because it is now springtime, my knitting mojo changes significantly. Like, I know I've been doing this long enough, I kind of know how I roll. So my knitting mojo garment knitting mojo gets really strong, like from July to now, which is a good chunk of the year, because if I make stuff starting in the fall, I can wear it that year. And I usually start making sweaters and stuff in about July for the next season. So like when it does get cold, I have fun things to wear. So it's going to slow down right now, which is great because I have sewing. So I have plenty of things to make, but I am definitely, I've basically only been working on one project. And there is a chance that I will actually be able to wear this before it gets hot as hell. So let's talk about that. This is, and pull it out, and it's on needles and, whatever. So I talked about this last time. This is the Honey Bop Cardigan by Poison Grrls. I have made this pattern before. I love it. It is very much my jam. It also very much needs a block. So I'm going to stand back so you can see it. It's a puff sleeve. Look at that puff sleeve. So it is I actually could probably put it on and show y'all. So it is a cardigan with puff sleeves, very me. I'm making a long sleeve version. And I am almost about to start the ribbing on the first sleeve. So a little bit, I'm going to try it on so you can see, because it really does need a block. Oh, the yarn is mine in Pure BFL in the colorway St. Mary Mead, which is 235, which is Miss Marple's telephone number, because we love Agatha Christie around here. So you can see, so like what really makes this cardigan shine is the shaping. And puff sleeves, because again, puff sleeves. Me and Anne Shirley, man. So you can see this magnificent puff sleeve. So this is taking a little bit of time. This sleeve takes a little bit of time. I feel like I tend to do either raglans or just circular yoke sweaters where you like knit the yoke and then you divide for the sleeves and then you knit the body and you go back and you do the sleeves and there's like no fun shaping or anything. This one I think I can tell you how it's constructed. It is a short row sleeve. So the sleeve cap, this is the back of it. So the sleeve cap is you pick up stitches for the sleeve and then you do short rows to do the puff and to shape it. And so the final effect, it looks like a set in sleeve, but it's not. Oh my gosh, y'all, sorry. So it functions, so there's shaping in the sleeve cap that you do not get in a lot of constructions. Again, I'm not a designer and I only kind of know what I'm talking about here. But anyway, here is the sleeve. It's just been such a fun knit. I don't love knitting flat. It's funny, I don't love knitting cardigans flat. This is my third one this year, but it'll probably be the last one for a hot second. So I'm really enjoying it, and I actually this color is so my jam. There's a running joke that I don't love pink, but I do. I just love a certain kind of pink. So that is the Honey Bop cardigan. So I'm really hoping to finish up the sleeve and like maybe this week. This sleeve took me a week. Now I was doing other stuff, but usually I'm a pretty fast sleeve knitter. I'm doing magic loop, and I'm really hoping to finish it up so I can at least wear it cool mornings. I definitely made it with the dress that I'm wearing in mine, so we're gonna jump ahead a little. We're gonna bounce around. It's an ADHD show. It's fine. So I kind of made it with this dress in mind. This is a mashup of the Grainline Studio Scout Tee with puff sleeves added and a Cleo skirt Made by Ray, and it has a waist tie. I mashed the patterns together. I did so much work on the bodice of the Scout Tee to get it to fit me that I was just like, okay, it's my go-to bodice. I love this dress. I've made a ton of them. It has pockets. But also, most importantly, it has skeletons petting kitties on it. I don't know if you can see. I really need a microphone, don't I? Like one that can go with me as I move around. So it has skeletons petting kitties on it. That is all. And it's got this like dusty rose, so this cardigan will look amazing with it, and I'm very excited. So that is basically all of the knitting I've been doing. I have some plans. I mean, I always have plans, but I do know myself, and I know that it's going to slow down a little bit in the springtime because it always does. So we're just going to ride it. I did find a project I want to do though, which is and I'm going to, spoilers, I found the pattern, but it took me a minute. So it's the Osaka Tea Cozy. I think it might have been it's a Jamieson and Smith pattern, but I think it might have been like a Shetland Wool Week or one of those. I could be wrong. So I saw it on the Jamieson and Smith website. Jamieson and Smith is a Shetland in Scotland wool company. They make some of my favorite rustic yarns for sweaters. The 2-ply jumper weight is amazing. And anyway, so I saw this tea cozy, and they only had a paper pattern, and it's based in the UK, which means shipping is an adventure. And I was like, well, I want this. So I went on Ravelry, and it's not available anywhere. The publication is out of print. I went to go try to find the book. Anyway, I did a whole thing. Finally, I found it. You can buy the ebook on the Jamieson and Smith PayHip site, which is not their actual website. I will link to it below so you can go ahead and find it. So anyway, it is a fingering weight steeked tea cozy, which for any of y'all who are afraid to try steeking, a tea cozy is a really good place to start because I don't think you even have to reinforce the steek. You don't technically anyway with a wool like Jamieson and Smith. But when you steek, the edges turn under naturally, and a tea cozy, you're not washing it. I mean, I maybe have thrown ours in the wash a couple of times, but I can have a stranded colorwork steeked with little teapots on it. Cozy for my new Brown Betty teapot. Again, Miss Marple, Agatha Christie, very important in these parts. So anyway, I'm excited about that. So that'll be once I get through the sweater, I think that'll probably be my next cast on, which is it'll be a smaller project, and it's something I can use right away because we have a pot of tea every morning. If you are not into that tea cozy life, I highly recommend it as a thing. It's great. If you're a tea drinker, just there is something about the ritual of brewing a pot of tea and putting something on it to keep it warm. We use ours every morning. I make them for the shop sometimes. I make fabric, not quilted, but they're insulated with cotton batting, poofy ones, so I sew them. But I have knit. My second ever knitting project was a cabled tea cozy that we still use, and then I'm going to have a steeked stranded colorwork version that I'm very excited. Tea cozy life. We're just all about that cozy life around here, really. So that's kind of it on it's very light. Haven't touched, but I'm still working on my Peggy Vest by Susan Crawford. I tend to not have a ton of whips at one time, but I just, we've all been doing this for a minute. I just kind of ride the wave. So that is it. in knitting. So if you're not here for sewing and shameless self-promotion, I'll see you later. Bye. However, I have some sewing. So I haven't actually been sewing that much because, as mentioned, I have been working really hard in the studio. But I do have a finished object. Am I going to model it? No, because it's corduroy and it is now 76 degrees outside. So this is Fahrenheit, by the way. I'm an American and we're stupid and refuse to get on board with things that make sense. So these are the True Bias Riley overalls, and I'm just gonna hold them up. There are a gazillion pictures of me wearing these because I think this is my 7th pair. Oh, there's a cat hair on my screen. That's what it is. How? So here they are. This is a, oh my gosh, I love these overalls. This is a pond scum green narrow whale corduroy that gave me fits. I'm still kind of mad at it. The color is my favorite color in the entire world, though. I saved this fabric for a really long time and, you know, was precious about it. And I sewed the bib and I didn't have the walking foot on my machine. And because you can even, it's still not perfect. You can even see it. This is my redo and I gave up. Because the fabric is a thin whale corduroy, it creeps a lot. More so than the thicker ones that I prefer to work with for this kind of thing. And so it doesn't look as perfect as I want it to. I'm a medium perfectionist about my sewing. I would say like I'm a lazy perfectionist. So, but I did redo it and it wasn't working. And so I was like, well, forget it. So it is this beautiful pond scum green. And I did I'm going to pull them out. I did the pockets. And this beautiful, it's got mushies on it and moths. This is one of my favorite fabrics of all time. It's a organic cotton lawn by Birch Organics, and the illustrator is the Mustard Beetle, who obsessed, like just so my jam. And they did a whole range of just really beautiful fabrics for Birch Organics a couple of years ago. But I love this one. I have a blouse made in a poplin out of this in the same print in a different colorway that is like, I built my entire wardrobe around that blouse. And it has mushrooms and moths and it's very me. So we have scum green overalls. So there's you can see this is the waistband. The pattern doesn't actually call for this. See, look, it's not perfect. It's not. The pattern calls, I think, for the main fabric to be the waistband, but on thicker fabrics, I found that sewing through all that was kind of a nightmare, even with my beefy machine. So I've been doing the waistband in the lining fabric, which is also kind of a fun touch. So they're amazing. I love this pattern. I think I bought it the day it came out, and then I taped all the pieces together. I am not a print at home, tape PDF pattern kind of person. I would rather pay to have it printed like on PDF plotting, although that has gotten rather expensive. So I actually am kind of moving towards buying, if it's available, buying paper patterns again, but with indies it's not always available. So anyway, it's fine. It's not a cheap hobby. So I bought this pattern the day it came out. I taped all the pieces together. I made a couple of fit adjustments. They really are just the best overalls. If you, like me, are deeply attached to the Gap overalls you had in the mid-90s, these are the sewing pattern that are the most like that. They are not hard to make. They are involved. There are 23 pattern pieces. That does include interfacing, but it's still like a lot of pattern pieces. And there's 63, 65, whatever. There are like over 60 steps. I think True Bias has some of the best instructions in the indie pattern world. As someone who did not learn how to sew when I was a child and I taught myself as an adult, I sometimes find pattern instructions to be really challenging because they assume a level of competence that I don't have and certainly didn't when I first started sewing. And I've really enjoyed the True Bias patterns, and this one really is no exception. And I love these things. I mean, I think it's 6 or 7 pairs, and I wear them all the time. And they're worth all of the hassle, and the size range, I think they go up to a US size 32. which is not the same as a UK 32. Just, and anyway, I've really enjoyed them. However, I think this might be my last pair. I have a rainbow. And like, as much as I do love wearing the same thing every day, like I feel good about them, but it's a really good use. And in my size, I can get a pair out of, I think 2 yards of 56-inch wide fabric. So they're like a really good use of fabric. They're really fun to make. They're very satisfying, but they are, I mean, I don't think I would want to make them if I wouldn't have wanted to make them right when I started sewing, but now they're really fun. And then I get overalls and in pond scum green corduroy. What's not to love? So that is my True Bias Riley overalls. I do really recommend that pattern if you are a human who loves overalls, which I very much am. And they do replace the Gap ones in my heart. Speaking of involved things, so this is, I was like, okay, I need to cut this fabric, but I also need to record a podcast. I think I'm going to record the podcast first. I have talked briefly about this. If you follow me on Instagram, you've heard me whine about these things for solidly the last year. I think we're approaching my 1-year anniversary. So I love traditional style pajamas in fun fabrics. Like I have since I was 15, and I saved up my babysitting money to buy I remember a $98 pair. This was 20 years ago. A $98 pair of Nick and Nora pajamas, which by the way, I still own. Sadly, I don't think they're in business anymore, but man, those held up. I'm mending a pair that I got my senior year in high school currently. So I love cute jammies. So when I first started sewing, I bought the Closet Core Carolyn pattern. It was not even called Closet Core then, it was called Closet Case. They changed their name. So I bought the Closet Core Carolyn pattern, and I was afraid of it for years, which turns out I absolutely needed to be. We'll talk about that. But anyway, so I finally last year, about this time, got up the courage to actually make these pajamas. So they are a very classic style button-up top, pants. There's piping. They have really cute thoughtful details. There's a little piped breast pocket. They're absolutely precious. And I'm really, really glad I tackled them. I think of almost everything. I think of almost everything I've sewn. I learned the most about everything from these. So the spoiler is, and this is why, like, whenever people see them and love them, like, yes, they're really great. And so I don't know if it is my body shape type has nothing to do with the block that they use to draft the pattern, or if just maybe some of the fit decisions are not ones I would have made. But I was looking at my pattern pieces because I'm about to cut another pair. I'll talk about it in a second. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had to do so. I couldn't even list all the modifications that I did. The biggest one was I graded up, like, I think 2 or 3 sizes in the hips, which, like, I got some junk in the trunk. I'm used to doing that, but 2, it's usually a size. 2 is unusual. So I had to do that. They were like cut so low rise. They were like an inch below my belly button, which is not how I want my pajamas. I would like, look, I'm a high-waisted human. I would like all of my stuff like 2 inches below my boobs. Like that's my preference on all things. So I had to add a bunch of, I'd never made pants before when I made these that weren't overalls. And so like I had to like add to the rise. And I mean, tons of things. I think they're drafted for someone who's like 6 feet tall, which I am 5'2". So I had to shorten everything. So I shortened the pants, I shortened the sleeves, I shortened the top. I mean, just like the amount of work I did to get these to fit is bonkers. However, it means that I have a pattern that is like the best fitting pair, it's windy, that is the best fitting pair of pajamas in the history of ever. Oh, also they're a pain in the ass to sew. There's that too. Because they have a notched piped collar. So you have to like sew on all the, okay, first of all, you have to make the piping. The whole thing. So you like make the piping. Yes, you can buy piping, but if you make piping, you get to swear a lot more, and you get to pick the perfect color. And if you are a crazy person like I am, and you are obsessed with color, you can have piping that matches. And of course, I do that. So the collar is piped and notched, and I swear, if I knew more about sewing, there has got to be an easier way to do this collar than the way that the instructions say. There just has got to be. And I've sewn collared shirts before, but nothing with like the notch and the piping. Anyway, I don't know that I could tell you how many pairs of these pajamas I've made. I mean, it's probably 10 or 11, and every damn time I make the collar and I'm like, what am I doing? I hate this. Why do I do this to myself? And then I get through the shirt because I have a system. I do the shirt first because it's the worst. So I'm halfway through the shirt and I'm like, fuck, I hate this. And then I finish it and I set it aside, and then I sew the pants, and then I have pajamas that are perfect, that I feel amazing in. I put 10 times as much effort into the sewing of my pajamas as I do into any of my other clothes. I just really love them. So, and I keep thinking, like, how many pajamas do I need? That number does not exist. You know why? Because I sleep in pajamas every night of my life. I literally regret nothing. But it is like, they're a complicated enough project that I do have to ask myself, like, do I really want these? And I'm slowing down a little bit, I guess. But then I was on Spoonflower, and they had the most Kathleen fabric ever to exist. I like want to cry every time I look at it. Oh, now it's upside down. Look, I'm so bad at this. It is cardamom buns and coffee or tea and spoons and little napkins. But it has cardamom buns. If you have not had the pleasure of having a cardamom bun, I am leaving a link to my favorite recipe below. I will also, if I remember, put in my little tips and tricks because I do like a couple things differently. They are the best thing. Like, it's like cinnamon rolls who. Okay, so a cardamom bun, I'm not Swedish, but it's like, think of like no, you know what? I'm not getting insulted by calling it a cinnamon roll. It is so much better than a cinnamon roll. So you make an enriched sweet dough that has cardamom in it, which I always bump up because cardamom is delicious. And then you just like when you make cinnamon rolls, you like roll it out and you put the filling is brown sugar, butter, cinnamon, cardamom, and vanilla, and you spread it out. And then you like fold it in thirds and you roll it out again. And then and then you roll it out again, and then you cut it into strips, and then you twist the strips and you form like little knots. So here's what happens. You get so much caramelization. So like and then you put pearl sugar on top of them. So they're like little twisted buns, and like because they're so much more exposed dough than like in a cinnamon roll, the Maillard reaction happens, and it is delicious. And they are so freaking good. Like, cinnamon rolls, I learned how to bake when I was a child, so I could make cinnamon rolls. So like, they're my favorite thing in the entire world. These are better. Seriously, I haven't made a cinnamon roll since I found this recipe. And they're not as sweet because there's no frosting on them, but that little bit of pearl sugar, there's a little textural contrast, and cardamom is just delicious and interesting. And they freeze beautifully. So whenever I make a batch, I'll just bake them and stick them in a bag, and then we reheat them for 45 seconds in the microwave, and you can have like a warm cardamom bun. Anyway, literally my favorite breakfast treat. Fabric for pajamas. Damn it. I can't seem to hold it up. Okay, there we go. And mine almost never look this good because they always explode and fall apart, and you know what? That's okay. So I am so excited. Here is the color I'm going to use for the piping. So they'll have a little bright blue pop. And then I think I'm going to do blue buttons, like a bright blue button. I'm so excited. So I'm going to make these short sleeve. So they'll be short sleeve, long pants. So it'll be good springtime. I can usually get away wearing pants, like pajama pants, until like July. So I'll get some good use out of them before I have to like start wearing nightgowns because it's hot as hell. Anyway, so I'm going to cut the fabric for these today. Just a little like pro tip if you're watching this podcast. So Spoonflower's fabrics are fairly expensive, and their quilting cotton is expensive, and I would not recommend it for garments. This is the cotton sateen. It is $29 a yard, but it is 56 inches wide, so that is something. And they have sales. I waited for a sale. The cotton sateen is actually I actually prefer for garments. This dress is a cotton sateen from Spoonflower. It's a tighter weave, and the quilting cotton is like crispy, but not in a like nice poplin way, in like a crunchy way. And it like has no drape at all, and I wouldn't want it next to skin. So I spring for the fancy stuff very rarely. But this was one of those ties because it has cardamom buns on it. Warm beverages. Anyway, so that's my weekend project. I'm really hoping I can get them done this weekend. We'll see. Because I have to, build in swearing time at the collar that I have sewn a dozen times. Okay, got myself worked up there. So, since I haven't been sewing much, I have been buying fabric. I know myself at this point. Like, I'm either doing the thing, or I'm thinking about doing the thing. And if you think about doing the thing, then you have to buy all the fabric. So, last time I talked about the smooth sailing trousers that I am obsessed with. The pattern is by Wearing History, and it comes with a blouse and a shorts option, and the pants are the best pants of my entire life. And because I haven't really ever had pants I liked, I went a little bonkers with fabric. This is how I roll. It's just how I roll. However, I'm at a little bit of a standstill because I'm trying to figure out how to get pockets that I like in it. And I did a muslin with a sample, and it was like, I miscalculated something and it looks like garbage. So I'm going to have to spend some time with that, which is not particularly fun for me. I know I'm not one of those people who loves fitting and stuff. Oh. I sew because I want the thing, not because I really love the process. So I'm a little stalled out because I need to just suck it up and give myself some time and space to get my pocket situation right, because once I have pockets in these bad boys, boy howdy. So I do have a lot of pants options, so I'm just going to show you the fabric that I've been buying. I think this is all of it. I think so. All of these are linen or linen blends because flowy pants in the summer is delightful. So this is, I can't remember if I showed these. If I've already shown these and you've already seen my fabric stash, you can fast forward. I'm sorry. There's a lot going on in here. It's fine. So this is the Robert Kaufman Essex in Nutmeg, and it's kind of like a little tweedy. I've made a pinafore out of this. I like the substrate a lot. It's a quilting, it's narrow, so it's like a 44 inch. But I really like it for garments. I've used quite a bit in garments. So I've got the Nutmeg, which is a brown tweedy. And then I have this one, which is Jungle. I think this is Jungle, which is like a green tweedy. And it's got different warp and weft threads, so it's got some movement to it. It's green. I love green. So that's those. And then this is an Essex also. This is not the yarn dyed one, so it's just a solid, but it's a cotton linen blend. And this is Plum. I have a Liberty cotton lawn to make the blouse with that has blackberries on it. That's this like dusty purple. I love a dusty purple and a dusty pink. So I'm excited about those. And then this one, these two are newer. I do actually make the things. These are 100% linen. I think both of these are from Stone Mountain and Daughters Fabrics in Berkeley. I ordered them, and I think they're both dead stock. So this is a mustard, and you can't see because you can't see, but it has like little pinstripe. It's like very subtly pinstriped with a like super light sage green. So I will have happy yellow pants, which is very exciting for summer. And then this one is actually a teeny weeny houndstooth. So this is like a navy and white houndstooth. So I thought since the pants themselves are relatively simple, I could do some like fun texture business going on. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited about all my pants that I have yet to make. It's fine. We will get to it when we get to it. And you know what? Like, I think I've talked about this. I'm not anti-fabric stash. If it is something that works for you and your brain, it's not going anywhere. I don't ever buy stuff just, that's a lie. Okay, I don't usually buy stuff just to buy it. But I also find that like my plans are always more than my time and attention span can do in any given season. And so I've liked the same kind of stuff my entire life. I like the same kind of colors. I like the same kind of fabrics. Like it's not going to go rotten. And so I will get to it when I get to it. So those are my pants plans, which are not going to be happening probably for a hot second. So, yeah, that's it. That is it for non-self-promotional content. So if you would like to not know what I do with what I've been doing with most of my life lately, like that's totally fine. I hope you have a fabulous afternoon. We'll see you next time. Okay. But if you want to watch an infomercial, here I am. So like I keep saying, oh my gosh, my creative energy for stuff for the shop has just been bonkers. I'm going to start. So I have a shop update this Thursday, March the 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern. When I planned this, I thought I was going to have like, it was going to be like a little thing. I was going to do 24 braids of fiber, and I was going to do some mini skein sets and like some buttons, and it was just going to be like low key. And then like springtime happened and it is not low key. So I'm going to go through, I'm not going to preview everything because that's ridiculous, but I am going to talk about spinning fiber first, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about yarn and a teeny bit of button talk. So button, perverts. Okay, so I'm not, to preface this by saying, I don't spin. I've never spun yarn in my life, and I don't know that I'm patient enough to, or like, I don't know that I find, like, I don't know, I've never tried it. I know I could see me finding it frustrating to do something that's soothing. Like I'm not a meditative person. Like I'm not a calm person, obviously. And I don't know, but then I have tons of friends who are spinners who just absolutely love it and make beautiful things. And I could see me getting to the point where I wanted to try. I wonder a little bit if because I'm a dyer that like I have so much creative, like I don't just knit, I also dye yarn. And so like that creative process, I do all of that other places. I don't know. Chances are though, if I get into it, I'll get really into it and end up with like a $3,000 wheel because that is how I roll. But I have a very good friend who requested that she started spinning and requested that I start dyeing fiber. And I did. So I have done one fiber update. And because I'm not a spinner, just a little background, because I'm not a spinner, before I offered it for sale in the shop, I sent it out to 6 test spinners. So I like dyed up some samples and got feedback on, because my biggest fear is handling it wrong and having it felt and having y'all hate me and your fiber. Like it's expensive. It's a hand dyed thing. You're paying money for it. The idea that I could make something that would be frustrating to use is just distressing to me. So I wanted to make sure that it actually was nice to spin with. I got feedback before I decided what kind of fiber to buy. And so I feel like I've done my research. It is still super stressful because it's not something I use. I know when I dye a skein of yarn, I more or less know how it's going to knit up. I know what it's like to work with. I test knit all of my bases. Like I understand what user experience is like on yarn. I don't have that direct firsthand knowledge on fiber, and so it's always very fraught. It is also a much slower process than dyeing yarn. I can dye, so I dye yarn in a proofing in a proofing oven in hotel pans, and I can do 4 skeins per dye, like per pan, 4 skeins of yarn, which is 400 grams of fiber. Because fiber is so poofy, I can only fit one in a pan and have it have space to move and take up dye in a way that I want it to. So in a dye day, I can only dye a quarter as much fiber as yarn. And because it is not superwash and because it's unspun, I have to be really, really careful about felting. So I can't, like, everything has to start cold. And so I think these braids that I did got like 7 or 8 hours in the oven, which is like a long time. And then because I can't use my electric spin dryer to get all the water out because of agitating too much, I have a commercial kitchen giant salad spinner. And so like so I can get more water out, but I can't get as much water out, and so they take longer to dry. Just the whole process takes a lot longer, and I am not a patient person. And it also last week, like I was PMSing too, so I was like really cranky about it. I am less cranky about it. It's a really fascinating process. I enjoy touching the fiber. Like, it is a poofy cloud. I like braiding it up. I like seeing it. It's fun to see colorways that I've dyed for many years on a different medium. Like, I find that very satisfying. And it's nice to make the spinners happy. Y'all are magical people. So I had planned 12 colorways and 24 braids. And I was like grumpily spinning water out of the first batch. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. And then I was like, I saw them all dried, and I was like, I'm going to do more. So we have ended up with, I think, look, we'll have to count together. It's either 18 or 20 different colorways. It's supposed to be 12. I really hope y'all buy this because it takes up so much space. Like, and we are kind of maxed out on space here at the Republica Unicornia. So currently it is living in our pet-free guest room with the door closed in a laundry basket. You know, professional. We're professionals around here. So, a note on fiber, plus my favorite story. So my fiber supplier is the same as one of my yarn suppliers, or was. They sold the business. It's fine. I can get fiber. But it's the same mill that I get some of my yarn bases from. And so I got domestic Rambouillet, and their choices of amounts to buy were 8 ounces, which is like not enough. I knew I was going to sell 4-ounce braids. 8 ounces or 30 pounds. Which is how I came to own a 30-pound bump of Rambouillet combed top as someone who does not spin. I don't mind having all this yarn. I figure if no one buys yarn, I will keep all of us in sweaters until the apocalypse. Fine. But the spinning fiber, I have no idea what to do with it. So I've just been like, and it's been living in our guest room. So I'm like, I have this giant, and it like comes in like a giant spool. So I've had this 30-pound spool of Rambouillet's fiber in my life. We are down to, I think, 12 pounds, which is very exciting. So there's a lot going into this shop. So there are going to be, for the most part, it's either 1 or 2 braids in each colorway. So I'm just going to go through and talk about them and what the colorways are. Again, if you're not a spinner, this may be really boring. So I did like half of them are because my color brain, I have 2 settings. I have like Bonkers Neon and then everything else. And so I'm going to start with the Bonkers Neon types. So this is Wild Gravity. Oh my gosh, it's so soft. I really do like braiding them up because you just crochet, this puff. So there's Wild Gravity. This is And She Was. Unicorn Smoothie. This is like, Smoothie is one of my first colorways, and I love dyeing it. I often dye it at the end of like busy dye seasons or dye days because it never does me wrong on any base, it's always ridiculous and always makes me happy. So that's Smoothie. The Love Cats, blowing out the camera because she neon. So there's Love Cats. Professor Plum, it's purple. I had people ask for tonals. People who would like to make sweaters out of their hand spun. So there you go. Rock Lobster. If you are new, I did a new wave mixtape mini yarn collection 3 years ago? Oh my gosh, it was 2020. Oh, what a year. 3 years ago, and it's just like fun bonkers neons. This is Moving Right Along, which was one of my Muppet colorways, which is also the exact colors of the Bi Pride flag, as I had many Bi babes point out to me on Instagram. This is Unicorn Bong Water, and this is Unicorn Birthday Party, and they look super similar. They kind of do, honestly, so all the Unicorn colorways are made to fade together. Birthday Party has more aqua in it, and Bong Water has orange in it somewhere. There you go. You can see the orange. But the difference is way more pronounced on yarn than it is on fiber. But anyway, Bonkers Neon. Oh my gosh, there's like a pile of puff. This is Agador Spartacus. We rewatched The Birdcage the other night. Holds up. Sadly, as relevant as it was in 1996. Oh, that was more Bong Water. More Unicorn Bong Water. Okay, so that's the Bonkers Neon stuff. And now for something completely different. Strange but not a stranger. Dirty Old Town. All the scummy greens. Pond Scum. Tupelo Honey. Grunge Unicorn. Okay, this one is not made to fade with the other unicorn colorways. I do love Grunge Unicorn. The people love Grunge Unicorn too. Callisto. I hope I don't need anything under this pile of fiber that I'm building up. Toasted Marshmallow. It's a neutral. This really is my favorite neutral. I love it on yarn too. Tea and Oranges. Oh, I'm missing one. I'll tell you what it is in a second. Sea Hag. And this little St. Mary Mead 235. So this is the same color that I am knitting my honey Bop cardigan out of. And I don't have it in this pile, but I also dyed Horny Feral Peacock, which, sad news, I don't know that our peacocks made it through the winter. Our neighborhood had, when we moved in, had feral peacocks. And about this time of year, maybe we're a little early, about this time of year, it's mating season. So you start waking up at 5 o'clock to peacocks singing the song, basically singing Let's Get It On. And if you've never heard a peacock, they have the stupidest noises ever. They are majestic birds. They make the dumbest bird noise. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I have a colorway called Horny Feral Peacock that is inspired by peacocks, but I'm a little worried about our peacocks. We had some really cold weather this winter, and our neighbors who had peahens enclosed but had them moved away. And so like I'm gonna be very sad if the sound of my April is not peacock fucking. Like, I'm gonna be bummed. It's hilarious. It makes us laugh every time. Anyway. So I do, but however, they're immortalized in my work, in my art. So I will have Horny Feral Peacock fiber. So that is the spinning fiber. It's such a, I don't know, I would say I'm enjoying, obviously I'm enjoying it because I went above and beyond like a lunatic, like I do. So that is fiber. Okay, so yarn things. In all of this, I honestly, y'all, I think I've been in the studio, like I think I've dyed something more days this week than I ever have. Usually I do like 1 or 2 dye days a week. They're physically hard and I have to wash 24 pans and lids and like it's heavy, like it's heavy physical work. I was a swimmer in high school, and when I get into really busy work seasons, all of my swimmer's muscles come back. My shoulders like kind of ripped, which is weird because I'm not a particularly athletic human. So anyway, I usually don't do that many, but I was just so in the mood. So there will also in this update, there will be a good bit of yarn. I did some older colorways. So I've done a lot of my favorite springy colorways. So there's going to be, and like I'd show you, but they're all in racks and wet. So there's going to be like some Luna Moth, just like some blues and greens and dusty pinks and purples, just some really fun stuff. And I dyed a bunch of neon stuff. So I did Unicorn Bong Water on a bunch of different bases. I did Agador Spartacus on a bunch of different bases. So if you are not a spinner, like there's still going to be fun stuff to buy. I also have a new colorway to share with you. This is, and it's not showing up on camera, which yarn not showing up true to color on camera is like the story of my life. So I would say it is more peach in real life. This is a Rose for Emily. It is named for the Faulkner story because we are Southern and we are 2 lit majors in this house. So we have a Faulkner color. So here it is on BFL. It really is. It is like right on that line. Oh, that's pretty good. It is right on that line between peach and pink. So it's like a grungy, dusty rose peach. Like think of like, peach roses when they start to rot. Like that's kind of what it's like, which is very appropriate for its name. I really love this colorway. I dyed a lot of it. So this is a rose for Emily. It looks really like if we're still doing fades or great. I'm a gradient person. I'm not really a fade person. I'm a gradient person. It is made to hang out next to St. Mary Mead. So I'm a huge fan. I dye a lot of it. So this will be available. It'll be available in BFL sock, merino sock, Surrey silk floof. I'm looking at it right now. Surrey silk floof, mohair silk, and I think pure BFL Tarhi sock. I will say on the merino and Tarhi bases, it's a lot more peach. Because of how those bases take dye, it's a lot more peach. The eagle-eyed among you may think it looks eagle-eyed. I don't know how long y'all been here. One of my earliest colorways is called the corner of Peachtree and Peachtree, which conveniently I have right here. We're gonna talk about this base too. I love Peachtree. Dyeing it makes me crazy. It's not quite as exact as some of every other of my colorways, and so the variation in between dye lots makes me bananas. I hate that. And it's hard for people to buy, and sometimes it looks like really bonkers peach, sometimes it looks whatever. So a rose for Emily is like my favorite parts of Peachtree. So the ones that are like a little of that like mauve, dusty wine color without so much orange in it. I will probably be dyeing this less and less. It really does frustrate me. And it's not, I've been dyeing it since I started dyeing. I've got 5 years of experience and it still makes me crazy. So, but this is like the tonal, subtle version of it. So, when I talked about yarn bases a couple of times ago, I got so into my Not Like Other Girls about merino sock that I completely forgot to talk about the fact that I do stock a merino sock base. So, as discussed, I tend to gravitate towards bases that are sheep breeds that are not merino. My primary consideration in yarn is not necessarily softness. I want something that wears really well, that has a little bit more character. I find a lot of commercially and indie dyed merino sock bases to be kind of like they're floopy, like they just don't hold up as well. The spin is a little bit looser on them, and it's just not my favorite. Like, if that's you, amazing. I'm so happy for you. It's just not my thing. However, I did find a merino sock base that I like, that I do stock not quite as regularly because I forget about it, and I don't do a great job publicizing it because there's other stuff to buy. But I did kind of want to talk about it because I think it's a different one. So this is it's an 80-20, so 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon sock base. It is domestic wool, which is a little different than the typical. It is also like super, super plump. It is, I would say, so like the BFL sock sort of leans towards light fingering every time because I'm 12 and a boy. It leans a little bit like towards that lighter. This is she kind of thick, like she's juicy, and I really, really, really like this particular base. Even though merino sock is not my normal jam, it's got a really round hand. It's kind of like the Rambouillets like that, where it has this like really round, like the actual like the little, I don't know if y'all can see it, but it has so that means it has really good stitch definition. I've made socks out of it and really like it. It's not quite as soft as like my mini skein sets are a 75-25. It's not that kind of soft. It's got a little bit more character to it. That's what it does. It has character. So it has a little bit more character to it. I mean, it's squishy. So it has more character to it than the sort of standard merino. And I do really like it. It takes, I stock several sock bases, and for me to add a new one was kind of a big deal, and I bought it and I was like, I don't know, and then I dyed and I was like, ooh, I do know. So I have actually just ordered a little bit more of this. So there's going to be, I don't think I've dyed this in a minute. It, like the Tarhi sock, it takes up dye at kind of a different rate. And so it's a little bit, you'll get more variation in a skein of merino sock than you will in BFL sock. And it's noticeable. So if that's something that's not your jam, maybe it's not your base, but we have other things available. So I really do like this. So that is the merino sock base. So I've just ordered some more. So you'll start seeing a little bit more kind of trickling in. I have to be in the mood for it. So that is the merino sock. And also in this update, I will have mini skein sets. Oh, mini skeins. I have such a love-hate relationship with them. So they're precious. They are also just drama start to finish. So the mini skeins, I do not wind my own minis. I did that once for Advent 2020 because minis weren't available and never ever again. So I do buy them pre-made. However, they do come with ties on them. All my yarn comes with, I think it's usually 3 or 4 ties on them. On the big size skeins, I don't cut the ties off before I dye them because everything's fine. Because of the minis being so much smaller, they're like likely to pull, and so the ties will get really tight and you'll have an undyed part under that tie. It's like a tie-dye, it's a resist, and you'll have an undyed part under that it happens even with just like the main thing, the main tie holding them all together, and I often have to do color corrections on minis. So before I dye a single mini, I have to go through and cut off all of the little ties, which doesn't sound bad. It is bad. So that happens. And then they're just a little dramatic, but they're so cute and I love them. So I'm dyeing mini skein sets. So the mini skein sets that are going to be available are going to be a jewel tone rainbow gradient. So they're going to be a set of 12. I'm just looking at them now. They are going to be very lovely when I untangle them. So those are going to be going into the shop. So I don't do a ton of mini skein sets because again, they're a good bit of extra work. However, my mill has started stocking BFL sock minis, which is very exciting. I've been doing the 75-25 standard indie dyer minis because that's what's available. But I should today have some BFL sock minis arriving. So this will probably be the last batch of the super soft merino sock minis, and we'll be going to BFL sock, which I am pleased about. So those are going in. The other thing that I don't know that I've talked about here, and I'm not going to show all of them because that's going to be extra boring. I make hand-poured resin buttons. I started this it was like when I started sewing a lot and I needed buttons and I was having trouble finding the perfect color. And so I make my own buttons. These are turquoise. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. So I have a lot of fun. I will just occasionally like spend a day making buttons and put them in the shop. It's a semi-regular thing. It's nice instant. I use UV resin, so it's a lot more instant gratification than literally everything else that I do. So I also have very fun pigments. There are really cool things available. So there will be glow in the dark buttons. There are going to be UV thermal change buttons. There are UV color change buttons. There we go. And temperature, those are the thermal, temperature color change buttons. So like some of them have really fun effects. I've used the thermal ones on clothes. And so stuff like it's just very fun. It's basically like everything is my grown-up sticker collection. And I have a lot of fun with buttons. They're just a thing I do sometimes. So there's going to be the like regular glittery ones. The ones I just showed you were glitter. And then there's going to be the UV color change ones, the thermal color change ones, and glow in the dark ones. And everything has glitter in it because I'm me and I can't be stopped. Colorways are kind of one of a kind. I let myself go on these. I am very precise with my yarn dyeing, and so on the buttons, I just kind of let them go. And it's very fun. So they're 3/4 of an inch, and they have 2 holes. Oops. You won't be able to see that. Sorry. They're buttons, but they're fun buttons, and the colors or the photos never ever do them justice because like they don't. But I really like them. I use them on my own clothes. Basically, I only make my buttons now, which is really nice because then I can pick exactly I can figure out what color I want exactly and what effect. And so sometimes on my jammies, I'll do glow in the dark ones, and it's very fun. But yeah, so there's going to be, I counted, I like went through and there's some quality control stuff, and I went through and I think it's 40 sets of buttons in all different things. So you should be able to get buttons. They are handmade, and so they are sometimes a little quirky, but I really enjoy doing them. And so those will be available as well. So there will be fiber, there will be yarn in full-size skeins and mini skein sets, and there will be buttons. Bags are not coming this time, but yeah, there's going to be lots of fun stuff. So Thursday, this coming Thursday, March the 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I think I said standard. We're on daylight savings, so EDT. Yeah, lots of fun stuff. Also, last announcement, because we are almost at the 1 hour mark, is I am hosting an open studio at the Republica Unicornia headquarters, aka my house, at the Republica Unicornia headquarters on Saturday, April the 22nd from 1 to 5 p.m. So the best way to get info on this is to sign up for the newsletter. I'm sending out reminders. I'll pop out. I think I'm sending a newsletter out tomorrow. So that's the best way. The Eventbrite link is password protected for safety reasons of me not advertising my address all over the internet to everyone. Just seems like a good idea. So it is password protected. So if you are on the newsletter, you will get a password. I'll share the password in the email. If you would like to come, if you are in Atlanta or the surrounding areas or whatever, you can contact me. I'm pretty easily to get in touch with, and I'll give you the password. It's not a big deal. But I'm going to make you work for it instead of just plastering my address all over the internet. So that is coming up. I am so excited. We did it last year and had the best time. So there will be lots of yarn and fiber and bags, and my amazing friend Brittany, who is Hart Art on Instagram, I am leaving the link below, is a potter, and she is coming with yarn bowls and mugs and her wares because yarn people love pottery. It is a fact. It's a scientific fact. So we're having like a little team pop-up. And so there will be all kinds of fun stuff. There will be snacks. I will be here. We had so much fun last year. People brought chairs and hung out in the yard and knit, and it's really fun. I love a party. It's also an excuse for me to deep clean my studio and the outside. So anyway, if you are able to come to that, like an RSVP is required just so we know how many people to expect, and all the information will be in the newsletter. And you can also reach out to me if you have any questions. So I think that's it. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the next little bit of time. So I am going to go cut some cardamom bun fabric, and I'm going to go work on some PJs. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. I hope you are making nice things or cuddling cats or doing whatever makes you happy in the late stage capitalist hellscape we all live in. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye.